Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Fed Up, your no BS nutrition podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Marie, certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, working with clients since 2014. After swimming up diet culture's bullshit stream for so many years, I am fed the absolute up with how miserable it's making people feel when we are supposed to be getting healthier. This podcast is here to help you gain your sanity back so you can stop yo-yoing once and for all and finally learn how to trust yourself so you can enjoy food again without fear or shame while still getting to your health goals. My aim is to teach you how to detect the BS in not just the food and diet industries, but in all realms of life, because I know that, like me, we are all just a little fed up. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Thanks for being here. Today we are talking about something that I think we actually see and hear a lot in our day-to-day, and yet we may not recognize it for what it is. And you hear a lot of this other word, maybe you've heard of it, called manifestation. And I want to shed a little scientific light on the placebo effect. So let's talk about that today. The placebo effect was first coined by Henry Beecher in World War II when he ran out of morphine treating wounded soldiers as a medic. So he pretended to be giving them morphine, and he told them he was giving them morphine when he was not. And he noticed that it still would calm them and helped lower their pain, which of course led to further research. And now there have been decades of research. And now when we set up a scientific experiment, and it's part of the scientific method, when we assign a control group, we have to account for the placebo effect. So when you're looking at studies, especially in the health nutrition world, we want to look at the most valid studies are going to be human-controlled trials. Of course, there's not everything we can always do on humans first. It has to usually go through, in vitro and then possibly animal and then human. But if you have a double-blinded controlled human trial, what we're doing is we're blinding both the researcher and the participant to if they're receiving the actual treatment or a placebo treatment, because it is such a powerful effect that if it's influencing the effect of the medication or the effect of the intervention treatment, we want to know how much of that success is the actual treatment versus people's belief of the treatment. So, obviously, there are some issues with using placebo, especially in the cases of some life-saving issues. So you won't find a lot of experiments widely done with cancer patients, for example, because we want all the treatments to actually work. But you might find very advanced stages of cancer. You might find these experimental treatments that have a placebo because they want to make sure, it's just part of the process. Anyway, so what we're doing is we also want to address that even though we might be looking at medication in a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, I want you to start to see, and I'll mention obviously a few examples of how placebo might be affecting you in other ways. So let's get into it. First and foremost, placebo is what happens when you believe or when your brain believes something is happening, and then you have a physiological or a perceived symptom is how I'm defining. I'm not reading that out. Meaning, if you believe the treatment works, the placebo effect shows that your symptoms improve or the treatment is shown to work. Now, this doesn't work for everybody. They do show that the stronger your belief in that thing, depending on the person, depending on the thing, the stronger the effect is going to be. So there is actually a stronger placebo effect in the United States than there is in Europe or in other countries because of the type of advertising we see on the TV. We get advertisements for medications. That doesn't happen in a lot of countries. So when you go to your doctor asking about that medication because you saw on TV that it works, or you heard online that it works, or your friend says that it works, you think it's going to work for you. You're given that medication, and then 30 to 50% chance likelihood that might work simply because you believe it works. Fascinating. They also have what we call the white coat effect, which is when you get nervous going to the doctor. So they might see an increase in like hypertension, things like that, right? So imagine if you go into a study and or an experiment, there's a whole lot of doctors or researchers in white coats, or there's computers, there's lab equipment. It's very intensive. You expect better results from that. You give them more credibility automatically. You actually have a higher chance of that placebo having more of an effect because of that quote unquote white coat effect, or how extensive the trial is. They also show acupuncture, naturopaths, chiropractors. So many things can work way better if you believe that they work. Now, does this mean that it doesn't actually work? You just think it does? No, that is not what I'm saying. So they have shown, let's talk about a stimulant placebo, caffeine or other stimulants you can imagine. Some people, when given a placebo, so it's not a stimulant, but they're told it's a stimulant, they still experience physiological changes such as increased blood pressure, heart rate, etc. If you are told a milkshake that you are about to consume has higher calories versus lower calories, you have a different hormonal response for your digestive tract to prepare for that higher calorie food. So how you think about your food is going to affect your body. They also show that people who are positive, optimistic, they may have religious ties and they have prayer and they believe God will heal them. They believe they will survive this. They have a higher chance of survival. Now, is it because God chooses his most favorable? No, I don't believe that. Maybe you do. I believe that if you truly believe God will heal you versus the person who's like, well, I'm dead already, might as well give up. There are going to be other factors, not just the placebo, not just your brain's effect on your body, but there's also going to be probably behavioral factors, social factors that affect how you actually heal. Fascinating. This doesn't mean you're not actually experiencing the pain. However, there's another study they did in asthma, and they show that for asthma placebo, you might actually experience improvement in symptoms, and your perspective or your self-report of your asthma experience is better, but they show your lung function is not better. So basically, placebos may make you feel better, but not necessarily cure you. Not funny. But when we're looking at why this is important, one, we base our entire scientific method off of this. This is why we have a control group. This is why we account for placebo. This is why we have to have a significantly or clinically significant number to base our, generalizations on. This is why, because our brain is so powerful. It's not because it's all in your head. It's because your brain is so powerful. This is why trauma has a huge effect on your physiological health. They have shown this, that if you have stress or chronic trauma or one instance trauma, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of different severities, a lot of different flavors of trauma. All of them can have physiological and real physical symptoms and effects, not just schizophrenia, PTSD, depression, anxiety, but also cancer, ulcers, high blood pressure, right? We all know this. Stress affects your body. That can be somewhat tied into placebo in this sense. Animals, wild animals, we're animals too, I know, but animals have a fight or flight response or freeze. They might play dead, right? Deer in the headlights, that's a freeze response. But as soon as the threat dissipates or disappears, they come back to homeostasis and they move on with their life. And then they don't typically have PTSD. I mean, sometimes you have a dog that has some weird wiring, yes. Typically, wild animals respond to a stressor and then they recover from that stressor. Humans, we can ruminate on that stressor. We can literally have PTSD memories, flashbacks that put us physically back into that space we used to be in. We can have complete disconnects from reality because of this. You have children who have gray hair after going through trauma in war-torn countries. You have abused children who have incredible health issues. All of these correlations and connotations and causations, whatever it may be, can be tied to when you have an effect on your brain. It does have a direct effect on your body. There is no separation of the two. I don't like saying, mind over matter. Is that the saying? It is mind over matter, right? Because how you believe things, it is how, what actually happens. However, people think that you can just unthink things or blah, blah, blah. This takes time. It takes effort. Your attitude is something that develops long haul. You didn't control your trauma, right? So you have to go through a lot of healing, a lot of processing to realize how your thoughts are affecting your behaviors, are affecting your body, are affecting your brain. Obviously, if you are so deep, dark in the dungeon, you're probably not even listening to this podcast. But if you're somebody who tends to maybe lean towards naturopaths, energy healing, meditation, manifestation, you're tapping into the placebo effect. I'm sorry, but you are. If you're taking supplements, I feel so much better when I take my supplements. Yeah, keep telling yourself that because placebo effect. I don't want to ruin it for you. Just keep telling yourself that because it probably does make a difference. Does it make a difference on your labs? No, you could still be overdosing on iron through that multivitamin. We'll have a whole nother episode on supplements another time. But you want to make sure that your placebo also matches your reality, number one. Number two is you can use this to your advantage in both the positive and the negative. If you want to believe this medication works, believe it works, and it probably will most likely have a good impact on how it works. Again, make sure it matches your reality. If you have cancer, please seek real cancer treatment. Don't just believe you'll be healed. Do both. Do both. But they're shown that even chiropractors, acupuncture, all of that is shown to work better if you are more receptive to it. Exercise is shown to work better if you are positive and receptive to it, not punishing your body, being cruel to your body, exercising out of hatred for yourself. That is going to have a negative impact on your stress levels, right? On your stress hormones. So what we want to look at is, okay, if I can influence my thoughts to believe in things, this also means the opposite is true. They call it the nocebo. I love saying that word, nocebo. Well, this is when you are more likely to experience negative outcomes when expecting negative outcomes. And I find this is more popular. This is when you say to your child, this is positive feedback, but still, this is when you say to your child, well, sugar makes you crazy. Okay, no 5-year-old has just come up out of the blue and said, well, sugar makes me crazy. When you hear a child says that, it's because their parent told them that, or somebody else told them that, or said it around them. I've worked as a server long enough. I've worked as a babysitter. I've worked in child development. I've studied this. I have not raised children of my own, so I don't have that experiment yet. However, most often when I hear kids saying this, I'm like, who told you that? Well, my mom always says that I get crazy. My mom always says that I get crazy. It's the same thing every time. Or I'll hear it from the mother themselves in front of a 10-year-old. And I'm like, you think your 10-year-old doesn't hear you? She does. You say the carbs make her fat, that carbs make her grumpy. Now she acts grumpy. And you've called her fat in the same sentence. So of course she's grumpy at you. But I digress. People who believe certain things are bad for them, people who believe that certain foods are toxic or inflammatory are probably going to have issues. And I say this because people who believe that they have intolerances, and whether they do or don't, I'm not saying that, whether you do or don't. I'm saying that if you are all of a sudden allergic to things and you truly believe you're allergic to things because a bullshit test online told you, we'll have another episode on why those tests are bullshit another time. But if you're told you're allergic or intolerant to MSG, you believe it, then anytime you think you've had MSG, you experience those symptoms, right? Now, I'm not saying to experiment on people who have real food allergies. Do not do this. But I bet you a lot of people who think they're allergic to MSG, they eat a lot of things that have naturally occurring MSG in them and don't experience a reaction. Or you could probably lie to them and say, no, there's no MSG, and they won't experience a reaction. Again, if they have a true allergy about something, don't do that. I just know 0% of the population, fairly certain, has an allergy to MSG. Again, maybe a future episode, I'm going to write that one down, MSG. So, when you're looking at placebo, you can use it to trick yourself in the best ways possible. You can use it to change your attitude to be more positive, optimistic. You can learn to fall in love with nutrition and exercise without it being a punishment and without it being a diet and without making yourself miserable. Because all of that affects your stress hormones when you're exercising, and it affects how you're eating and how you're choosing your foods, because it's going to affect your sabotaging behavior and your eating behavior and your binging behavior. All of those things. You can use it if you are desperate because you've been in so much pain for so long and you go to a naturopath and you go to a healing ceremony and you want prayer and you want to believe and manifest your success. Go for it. All of that's placebo. Yay. Me, I'm too freaking logical sometimes, and I end up out placeboing myself, which is great. But a lot of times you can use this to release good, feel-good chemicals in your brain that trick you and get you to do the good, positive things more often and actually feel better doing them. And you can realize, oh, maybe I'm not addicted to sugar. I just think I'm addicted to sugar. So every time I get sugar, I binge on it. What if I'm not addicted to sugar? I just act addicted to sugar. Think about it. I literally know girlfriends that you can give them like an NA beer, and they've shown this in studies, by the way, too. You can give them like caffeine or the opposite, right? You give them a decaf, but you say it's a regular caffeine, and they act like they're bouncing off the walls. You give them an NA beer, you tell them it's a friggin' actual shot of vodka. They think that it is, right? And they act more drunk all of a sudden. Like, this is a real effect. It's not people acting and lying to you a lot of times. Don't misconstrue this as like, well, my friend's a drama queen, they just act drunk. No, if you actually told someone that they're taking shots of vodka and it was like, I don't know, a little bit of vodka and mostly water, they would probably act pretty frickin' drunk because they think they're actually drinking vodka. Again, they're probably not lying to you. It's just placebo. So I digress. I hope that this helps sort through some bullshit, because that's what we do on this podcast. And I hope this also helps. I want this to empower you. I don't want this to like, it's all in your head. You're making it up. You're a liar. You're just imagining it. No, that is not at all what placebo is. Placebo is a real phenomenon that happens when you believe something or when you have something in your brain and it actually affects your body. And multiple factors affect that, right? Whether it's your behavior or the white coat effect or your environment or just your belief. But it is so powerful that they have to use it in every single scientific experiment now. It's phenomenal. It's awesome. Or human experiment, I should say. So I hope this helps to relieve a little bit of that pressure of, oh, maybe it is all in my head, but that doesn't make me crazy. Yeah, cool. Use that for your advantage. That's my send-off today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please leave a comment. Send it to a friend. Love you all. I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoy my content, please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. If you are looking for more, you can find me at KaylaMarieFitness.com or on Instagram at KaylaMarie_fit. I do offer one-to-one nutrition counseling, starting with my new client course, Nutrition Essentials, your first 30 days. You can find out more and enroll on my website. If you're a podcast listener, use the code CARB, C-A-R-B, for 10% off your enrollment. And if you're a weightlifter, beginner, or pro, consider joining my online Lift Club, an expertly designed 12-month training program with a community chat room, weekly office hours with moi, and 4 full-body gym routines per week. We're getting strong AF without neglecting our functionality or athleticism, and I do have month-to-month options available. I will talk at you all next week. Thanks again for being here. Bye-bye for now.